I'm going to take a different view, a slightly different view of what has been already discussed. I want to share my experience integrating global citizenship into a first-year undergraduate subject at the Liberal Business School. Now, a bit about the subject. Now, the subject of Business Foundation and the graduate capability of global citizenship has been embedded in this subject. The subject is about focusing on how businesses operate today, both local and global environments, and how they may need to operate in the future. Because it's a first-year Common Core subject, the student cohort is very large, usually about 1,000 to 1,200 students each semester, and I coordinate that subject as well as I teach into the subject. So the activity in concern, this is a short spiel about the activity. Now, it's a three-part activity which runs 3 consecutive weeks. We start off with analyzing the external environment of the fast food industry of a chosen country, and students work in groups. These groups are made of domestic and international students, of 5 students, both male and female. Then in the second week, these groups analyze the internal environment and using the internal environment for McDonald's in that same country, provided that there is a McDonald's, so I make sure that there is a McDonald's. And they use the information in the first week and the second week to come up with a SWOT analysis for McDonald's. And then moving on to the third week, they use that SWOT analysis to come up with a new product for McDonald's target market in that same country. Now, the catch here is that the domestic students are to make use of the international student in their group in choosing their country, so that they understand how consumers interact with the fast food industry in that particular country, and then compare it to a local environment, which will help them to come up with the new product. Once they come up with the new product, then they present it to the class in a Shark Tank style presentation for the benefit of the international students. Usually I show a small snippet of Shark Tank. So what happens is they get, there's obviously a panel made out of students. They get paid money. After each presentation, they set aside a bit of money, and at the end of every presentation, after all the presentations, we count up the money, and the group who has the highest amount of money actually gets a small gift. So it keeps the activity very interesting, engaged. It keeps, these are first year students, so it's important to remember that it's sometimes a bit tricky to keep them engaged. Now, please keep in mind that some of these international students have only been in Australia for less than 2 weeks before they actually start the semester. And also bear in mind that these are my personal observations of running this activity for some time. By no means it's meant to be generalized towards any culture or region. Most of my international students come from East Asia, Southeast Asia, and South Asia. Not to mention there is a minority of Anglo and European students. Now, what I've noticed is, based on the region and their ability to communicate in English, the outcome varies. I have 3 basic cases that I identified. So in the first case, when there's only one international student, I've noticed that when the student is from East Asian region, there is a bit of awkwardness in that conversation. Sometimes they tend to be not so confident in their ability to speak in English because they are in a group of 4 domestic students who are dominant in their ability to speak English. So that impacts the outcome of the presentation. However, when the students are confident in their ability to communicate, there is a good outcome. Similar situation happens in case 2, but here you have 2 people from the same country. They do tend to communicate in their own language. I don't find this a problem as long as they are able to communicate with the rest of the group and come up with that outcome, because that tells me they do that communication between them to have that confidence that they are telling the right thing. In in the last case, when they are from two different countries, it varies between case 1 and 2. If there is a dominant speaker in that particular international country, then the conversation goes towards that dominant outcome. My observation of domestic students, it depends really on their age group. I get a lot of students who have just left VCE, so they're quite young. The experience internationally is not so much, but it does. There is an interest of students who have traveled outside of Australia, as well as those who are interested in study abroad programs, who have a high enthusiasm to engage with this activity. Now, as I know there's a lot of educators here, and fortunately or unfortunately, all of us have this problem of, I think it's unfortunate that there are disengaged students. Doesn't matter whether they're domestic or international. I'm still trying to battle that uphill battle of trying to get them engaged. Doesn't matter how many carrots that you dangle in front of them. But what I feel is with this activity, I see more positive outcomes than negative. They do get a better understanding because they work together in the same group for 3 weeks, 3 consecutive weeks. So they get a better understanding, a cultural understanding, a global mindset, better engagement, and they really get into understanding that culture, whichever the international country that they're focusing on. However, if you're that shy student who is not willing to communicate and you're dominated by domestic students, this is going to be a negative experience. And also sometimes students tend to, get on their phones or their laptops and start searching on the internet. It is a form of understanding the international environment, but that's not necessarily what I want them to do. Of course, if the students are disengaged, that again gives you a negative outcome. Finally, what I want to mention is moving forward. It is important for me to identify these groups that are not necessarily engaging and therefore to provide some solution to it. What I also realize is, as educators, we need to understand what the social barriers are, what different cultures are bringing to our classes, because I've started reading quite a bit of literature in terms of why there are these social barriers, how different cultures interact in a classroom environment, and there is quite a lot of literature about it and explaining why this may be the case. And also we need to really understand our students, whether it's domestic students or international students, it doesn't matter. What are their needs? Why are they at the university level? Things like, are they first in the family? Because those things run in the background, and that dictates what students need when we are teaching them something, or we are trying to give them the ability to be global citizens. As I said, this is embedded in a first year subject, which we call a cornerstone subject, and there's midpoint and capstone. I feel that we need to transmit it throughout those 3 years so that when they actually graduate, they have that capacity to be global citizens. I honestly do have a question as to how we evaluate their global citizenship capability per se. And employers keep on saying that they need, candidates, graduates that are able to work in multicultural teams. And I see that being embedded into our Career Ready Advantage framework, which is a portfolio for employability skills that students build during their study at La Trobe. There is a component that says cultural intelligence, but is cultural intelligence equal to global citizenship? So I feel that that's not the case. I feel that we need a far better focus on global citizenship in that Career Ready framework if we want to call our graduates global citizens, or that they have that global citizen capability. And also I think something that I didn't add here and was running in my mind during these sessions is that I'm from the business school and different parts of the university. Damir is from another part of the university. We all define global citizenship from different aspects. Fazal was talking about how it's different, academics versus corporate. So where is that commonality between our understanding? I leave you with that, and I would really appreciate some feedback afterwards, or if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer. Thank you very much.